I think we left off on page 31. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
31. Where we've learned the Ramban and the Chuvas of the Chassam Sofer goes further with that. We're dealing with, like, if you board a train before Shabbos and it'll continue to travel on Shabbos, you're not going to do any malacha in the train. So there were issues. You're going to leave the tchum, and you're going to lack oneg Shabbos. And the way the Ramban learns, it goes against the concept of Shabbaton. So the way the Chassam Sofer says it, v'sharesho patuch alai iser deraisa Shabbos Shavuos k'mo shekasav Ramban. It's really a Torah prohibition where the Torah says you're supposed to stop working. The in came, the ayin regilim v'tzarach loim. It says me'ayin regilim v'tzarach loim shiny yeshiva svina. Why do people go on boats then? Shiny yeshiva svina de yoishe b'shoives. When you're resting on a boat in a stateroom, it's like you're in a hotel. Kimo b'cheder mitaso b'veso. It's like in your bedroom. Ve'ena osa shum davar begufo. The water is moving him and he's resting. If you travel with steam engine, right? He's being jostled to and fro. You can't rest. So the Chassam Sofer says traveling on a train or a steam wagon on Shabbos, even though you entered before Shabbos, is a violation of Shabbos, even to a level of a deraisa. Or the Chassam Sofer, riding on a train, or you might say a bus, subway, right, prevents one from resting and conducting oneself in a manner conducive to Shabbos due to the constant motion. And thus it violates the directive of Shabbaton according to the Ramban. By contrast, setting sail on a ship was never forbidden by Chazal for this reason, because one's body does not sway in the manner as when riding a train. Rabbi Eliezer Waldenberg, the Tzitz Eliezer, extends the same logic to boarding a plane before Shabbos and letting it fly, and you get off the plane Motzei Shabbos. What's wrong with that? Says the Tzitz Eliezer. Im kain b'rakevet in kach b'rakevet lachas kam v'kab b'nesiya b'aviron. He says if riding on a train is a impedance to your Shabbos resting, he says kal v'chomer riding on a plane. Sheyal shamayim v'yeret tohomo saviv saviv yitalech. It goes up, it goes down, moves around. He doesn't know what business class is. I'm serious here. I guess there are times,
There's turbulence.
if there's turbulence, yeah,
horrible.
I guess we'd have to discuss that, right? Ben l'chanav v'nah, ben gufanach yoser mizeh. His body is not resting. Shetzarch liot osra liba d'kulam. He says it would be prohibited. V'shashor patuch b'yisur d'oraisa, dein hashovis k'mavur some sofer sham, who quoted the Ramban. So the Piskei Tshuva notes that many poskim afterwards accepted the approach of the Chassam Sofer and forbade riding on a train, airplane, and other forms of mass transportation in almost all cases. The one exception we've seen is boarding a ship before Shabbos and traveling on the ship on Shabbos, as long as you don't get off the ship on Shabbos. That we see was an exception because it allows you to rest, to have a restful Shabbos. What does the Piskei Tshuva says? Afim harakevet, the rachval, which is a cable car, the chashmalit, other electric vehicles, no sim ba'atzmal gabi pasim, let's say things that travel on their own, they're automatic, on their tracks. Below shum pulut yaradam klal, there's no human action with them. The light rail. Va'af imhu b'toch ha'ir she'en mishum isur tchumim, and there's no traveling more than 2,000 hours, or you're in the same city. Ve'eno korach b'shum chilul shabbos shel tashul makichas kartisim. You're not paying, right? You're not buying tickets. Mikol makom yesh bo mishum zilzul b'kedushas haShabbos. So there's zilzul in kedusha Shabbos. Upirtza b'mitzvahs hamenucha v'shvisa b'Shabbos. It's a break in the rest that you're supposed to do on Shabbos. V'hu b'chlal divrei Ramban shekavanat haTorah b'amro Shabbaton shetiyeh yom haShabbos yom shvis u'menucha. The intent of the Torah is that Shabbos is a day of rest. Shalom la'asot kachol, not to do it like a weekday. V'lachein iskimu gdolei hadoros ha'achronim lesor, to prohibit kol hanisker le'el b'Shabbos v'yontav afilu l'tzorach mitzvah derabim, even if it's for the purpose of a mitzvah, ketfilah b'tzibur kriyas haTorah.
Ernie, interesting story. I went with a Jewish group to China years ago, and included we stopped in Hong Kong. One of the big shuls in Hong Kong is at the top of a hill. The way with an escalator that you ride up the steep street to get to the entrance to the shul. And so there was a machlokes there as to whether or not it's permitted on Shabbos or not. And just like he's talking about Zilzul Shabbos here, the same thing, even though it's not, you're not paying anybody, you're not taking a ticket, you're not involved in the malacha, there was controversy. So the end result apparently was if you can't walk up the hill and you want to be there, the basic Knesset for Tefillah on Shabbos, you're allowed to walk up. That's the psak that they came up with.
Okay. It's a good. Here we were talking about transportation like trains, cable cars, electric vehicles. Maybe it could be comparable to what you're describing as an escalator. Maybe an escalator is less problematic, perhaps, because it's not a terrible disruption in a person's Shabbos, and the whole intent is to go to shul. So it's something we should look up. Something I'm not, maybe somebody will discuss it. I'm sure they'll discuss elevators, and maybe they'll discuss escalators.
It's always running, so you can jump on it. It's always running.
But that's the same thing here. Here they were talking about a train that goes, it's automatic. A monorail, it's automatic. It just goes in a loop. And by you getting on, you're not buying tickets, but using this Chassam Sofer, they said it's a zilzul in the holiness of Shabbos.
Oh, okay.
We explained, Chassam Sofer says your body's not resting. Now an escalator might be different. Yeah, like going in a Shabbos. Why would it? We certainly see permissions to go off a Shabbos elevator. It goes automatically. I would think an escalator would be similar to an elevator more than to this issue. There's more of an issue of Chol. Yes, Yaakov?
I'm very familiar with that escalator in Hong Kong. I've taken it many times. The many Gedolim allowed that escalator, and the psak was when I was there, which was in the early and mid '90s and late '90s, before and after the handover, that escalator was permitted. You were allowed to take it. So
I think in thinking about it, it's similar to an elevator. It's not mass transit. That is more choladik, it's vachadik, it's more, it's more doing something nishabistic. And I don't know about, going up, a lot of apartment buildings in Israel have Shabbos elevators, people use them. I don't know, I believe there's a heterim for that. I'm sure we'll learn more in Tzurba about it. And maybe we'll be able to speak more directly about it. So we must also note that even with respect to sailing, the entire permissibility of departing applies only before Shabbos. One is not permitted to set sail or fly on Shabbos itself, as noted by the Yalkut Yosef. Aside from any other violations of Shabbos in the airport, the Yalkut Yosef also discusses what to do if one flew on Friday and all of a sudden your flight is delayed in the air, causing him to land on Shabbos. What should you do? B'Shabbos Atzma. First of all, before we get to this Yalkut Yosef, let's see footnote 21. The Piskei Tshuva cites numerous poskim who forbade traveling on public transportation for this reason, including the Beis Yitzchak, the Mari Asad, the Marshag, and the Igros Moshe. These are very important achronim. These are of the late 1800s. And of course, Rav Moshe was in the 20th century. It should be noted that a small minority of poskim did seriously consider the possibility of riding public transportation, such as a subway or city trolley on Shabbos, in order to attend shul, without giving considerable halachic weight to the Ramban's approach. See the Mate Levi, the Piskei Uziel. Although the author of Mate Levi is ultimately strict, the author of Piskei Uziel is lenient in specific situations. I think the Piskei Uziel is the Rav Uziel, who was the chief rabbi in Tel Aviv, who became the chief rabbi of Israel. And Yaakov, were the Yellens with us in Greece?
No.
So Rav Uziel, I took a beautiful picture of Rav Uziel came from Salonika and eventually went to Israel. And he has some very important psakim that are very relevant. Here we see Rav Uziel was lenient. Okay. So let's see what the Yalkut Yosef says. B'Shabbos Atzma osur lahaschil lahaflik b'sfina. He says you're not allowed to get on the boat on Shabbos. Af im rov hanosim v'malachim b'ayim goyim. Even if the majority of the passengers and sailors are non-Jews. Afilu dvar mitzvah. She'osur lashut b'mayim b'Shabbos. You may not float in water on Shabbos. Lachen mi she'en lo beis knesses b'shechnuso. Even if you don't have a shul in your neighborhood. V'yesh beit knesset me'ever lanar, and there's a shul on the other side of a river. Osur lo leilech lo beis knesses b'Shabbos al yedei sfina. You can't go to that shul via boat. Gam imzu mimonat al yedei goyim, even if it's propelled by Gentiles. V'gam b'sfinas meshutim, even sailboats. She'eino po'elas al yedei manoach hashmali ein lahakel. The Isser is being on the water, floating on the water. So it makes no difference whether you're in a machine-operated boat or sail-operated boat. See the Chavos Yair, who deals with such a case, where an individual who lived across the river from his local shul wished to hire a Gentile to take him across the river by boat. But there was no passable bridge. There was no passable bridge in the winter. Rav Bakrak, author of the Chavos Yair, rules that it's forbidden, but only due to the prohibition of Emir La'akum, which he felt applied here even when attending shul. He does not mention that one violates the rabbinic prohibition of swimming when sailing on a boat. Okay. Continues the Yalkut Yosef. Matos shenachat b'sadeh tufa. V'nitparesh shekvar nichnas haShabbos. Person took a flight Friday morning, and there's some problem, and the plane cannot land. They have to close the airport for an emergency. They have the plane circling. And when the plane lands, it's Shabbos. And you're on this plane, what do you do?
Right.
Ein lotzeis mimenu ad motzei Shabbos.
No, it's not gonna happen.
You may not exit the plane.
You get arrested.
Exactly, you'll end up in jail.
Kol she'over al isur tchumin. If you traveled more than the tchum. This condition would appear to apply in almost every case of air travel, with the possible rare exception of a leisure flight wholly within a single city. Accordingly, the problem of tchum would apply in all but the rarest of cases. Although discussed earlier, the prohibition of tchum may not apply above 10 tfachim, Rav Moshe Feinstein writes in the Igros Moshe that it certainly applies after the plane lands while it is taxiing on the runway. Alternatively, it applies even above 10 tfachim when traveling for more than a distance of 12 mil. And that's certainly 12 kilometers. Certainly, you've traveled more than that above the 10 tfachim. So the stewardess come and you have to say to them, I can't leave the plane. Now, if the authorities do not allow you to stay on the plane, you must stay in the airport through the Shabbos. You can show your passport to the policeman and enter the airport. And they give you some more sources. Okay. Any comments, questions?
Always pack food.
So Susie says always pack food. So the first year, we started off talking about the 3 days before Shabbos and the restrictions, what you're allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do, mainly involved in travel. But there are other halachas regarding hachana for Shabbos, preparing for Shabbos. One must be cognizant of potential violations of Shabbos already during the week. Likewise, a person must also perform certain tasks over the course of the week in order to prepare for Shabbos. We'll address some of these halachos in this section. According to the Mechilta, when the Torah introduces mitzvah of Shabbos in the Aser Sadibros by saying Zachor, this specifically implies thinking about Shabbos during the week and planning for Shabbos days in advance. I remember a famous Gemara, I think the Gemara will tell us, that he would find on Monday a beautiful fruit in the market. He would say, oh, I want this for Shabbos. But then on Tuesday, he saw something nicer, he would grab that as well. Well, I think it's going to give us that Gemara. And what one should refer to the days of the week based upon the relationship to Shabbos. That's why we say Yom Rishon l'Shabbos, Yom Sheni l'Shabbos. That itself fulfills this halacha of achana. Elazar ben Chanani ben Chizki ben Chanani ben Goran Omar Zocher Sar Shabbos Akatsho. Tei Zochrom Echad b'Shabbos. You should start remembering Shabbos even from Sunday. She'im Yisman Lechem Mana Yafet. If you see a nice chocolate cake, even on Sunday, you should think about Shabbos. Tei Metak L'Shem Shabbos.
Freeze it. Freeze it.
Freeze it, but you buy it on Sunday. We don't say Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We say today is the first day of the week, the first as it relates to Shabbos. The Gemara Masechta Beitza. relates the different methods of how Hillel and Shammai prepared for Shabbos. Shammai followed the Mechilta, and Hillel expressed a different opinion. Tanya, it was said about Shammai. Every day of the week, he ate. It was always L'Kovet Shabbos. How could that be? Matzah be'emeno. He saw a nice piece of rib steak in the butcher. Oimer Zula Shabbos. He would buy it and he would say, "Oh, this is for Shabbos." Matzah cheres noah nechas hashniya v'oichelas harishona. Okay, so on Monday, when he ate the steak that he bought, it was really a steak that he had bought for Shabbos. Now he had found another steak that was nicer, so he ate the first one on Monday. So basically, what he ate the whole week was really something that he had purchased for Shabbos, because he kept on fighting. Say it again? No, because I mean he's only eating one. Yeah,
Was this Malin B'Kodesh?
it's Hachana l'Shabbos.
Yeah.
It's Hachana l'Shabbos. Aval Hillel hazokein midach eres haisel. Shekol masav l'shem shemayim. Shenemar Baruch Hashem yom yom. He would say everything is l'shem shemayim. Tana Machi Beishamai Amim Mechad Shabiach l'Shabbasoich. You should start preparing from Sunday Chad Shabsech l'Shabsech. L'Veisel Amim Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. We might expect that accepted practices should follow Hillel, since the halacha normally follows Beis Hillel. However, the Mishnah Berurah explains that in this case, even Hillel agrees that ideally it is preferable for others lacking in his high level of faith to conduct themselves like Beit Shammai. The Baruch Hashem Yom Yom for Beis Hillel means I don't have to worry on Monday that I'm not going to. He has trust in Hashem that he's going to provide for him every day. And therefore he has trust that on Friday, Hashem's going to find him something beautiful to buy for Shabbos. That's the difference between Hillel and Shammai. Says the Mishnah Berurah in the Siman in Orach Chaim Reish Nun, which deals with Achana l'Shabbos. Hiskimu arbe poskim shegam Hillel moide shekdiver Beis Shammai adifat tfei. Hillel was not arguing; he was actually admitting that Beis Shammai's approach is better. Hillel had enough bitachon that he had faith that Hashem would always give him on Friday something great for Shabbos. And his approach of Baruch Hashem Yom Yom was to strengthen his emunah and bitachon. But other people, they don't have so much bitachon in Hashem. Better to follow Shammai's instruction. Certainly, if you find something in the market that's very unusual, you know that it's not going to be there every day. You should buy it. You should leave that over for Shabbos. This rule may still be relevant in cases. I'm sorry, we'll get to this later. It should be noted that the need to set aside one's more choice purchase early in the week for Shabbos is not as relevant nowadays as it once was, due to an overabundance of food and other items available in stores and supermarkets. Since one can likely find the same delicacies in the stores on Thursday or Friday, one need not set aside those foods early in the week, as described by Rav Melamed in the Pninei Halacha. Nevertheless, according to this halacha, even today, a person is required to honor Shabbos by planning ahead for Shabbos, by purchasing especially fine foods for it. I think that's something that we see our wives do every week. They're preparing when they shop on Friday specifically for Shabbos, and they buy special delicacies that they know we like for Shabbos. You're fulfilling a mitzvah, Chonol Shabbos, based on the Mechilta of Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshay. This rule may still be relevant in cases where one travels only once a week to a store that carries specific delicacies. Alternatively, it may be applicable if one knows that a certain preferred product is likely to be out of stock in one's regular supermarket by the end of the week, especially where many other customers shop for Shabbos at that time. In these cases, this halacha might obligate one to save the item purchased early in the week for Shabbos. This is the Pnei Halacha Rav Eliezer Melamed, L'maisa b'yameinu, ein kimat mashma'ut l'din zeh. Rav Melamed says in the modern world, we don't really understand this whole concept. Bishum d'v'chaniyot u'v'shasot ha'shiyuk, in markets, motzui shafa atzum shel motzrim b'meshach kol yimot ha'shavua, there's a massive abundance of food. Ve'in siba lachshor she'im nechal meichel tov nesuim b'masachol, that stuff that you bought Monday and Tuesday are going to be eaten up. Lo nuchal motzo b'chaniyot b'krat Shabbos. You're not going to be able to find it on Thursday and Friday. V'lachen ha'ikar kayom hu l'tachnen et ha'kiniyot ba'ofen kazeh shemachlei Shabbos yom shebochem yoter. Whatever you buy, you should make sure that the stuff you buy on Shabbos should be the choice items of whatever it is. Chazal also instituted additional takanot, enactments, for the purchase of covered Shabbos. Buying very special food items for Shabbos, you're being Makayim covered Shabbos. We're going to see, let's keep in mind, there are two aspects of Shabbos. There's covered Shabbos and there's Oineg Shabbos. This that we've been discussing so far is covered Shabbos. You're providing honor to the Shabbos. Now, when you eat a nice cholent on the Shabbos, that's going to be Oineg Shabbos. But the preparation of it prior is in the getter of covered Shabbos. What's another getter of covered Shabbos? According to the Gemara in Masechta Bava Kama, Ezra instituted the practice of doing laundry on Thursday to honor Shabbos. So you can have, who's that? So there was a special takana to launder on Thursday, so you have freshly laundered clothing on Shabbos. Umechabsim, big day in the covered Shabbos. So laundry was done. I'm sorry. Masechta Bava Kama Pei Beis. Asarat hakanot tikein Ezra. Shekor b'mincha b'Shabbos. There was always Moshe Rabbeinu was Masakein laning Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos morning, so that Klal Yisrael wouldn't go 3 days without learning. Ezra came along, was Masakein Mincha, v'Kohen b'Sheni v'Chamishi, and Monday and Thursday. V'Donin b'Sheni v'Chamishi. Was that all right?
It's Amazon.
Okay. Beis Din was in session Monday and Thursday. Umechapsim b'chamishi b'Shabbos. So one of the 10 takanot of Ezra was that the people should launder their clothes on Thursday. The Shulchan Aruch brings it in Reish Mem Beis. Mi takanat Ezra, shemechapsim b'godim b'chamishi b'Shabbos b'nei koved haShabbos. The Mishnah Berurah explains that Ezra ordained that laundry should be done on Thursday so that one would be free on Friday to engage in other preparations for Shabbos. Hainu kadei sheyeh levenim l'Shabbos. You want to have nice white clothing on Shabbos, but you shouldn't do the laundry avalo be'erev Shabbos kadei sheyeh pnui l'sasei b'tzorchei Shabbos. There are many things you have to do to prepare for Shabbos on Friday, so they were taught to do the laundry the day before. You shouldn't wear the same garment. You should show that you're accepting this takon of Ezra to have new washed garments. According to the Sharatzi, and most Achronim understand that the ordinance is primarily mandating that one should have clean clothes for Shabbos, but that includes the recommendation not to wash them on Friday to enable sufficient time for the rest of the food preparation. Keniskim be'Eliyahu Rabbah, right? One of the important Achronim that the Mishnah Berurah always quotes. V'chein b'mamer Mordechai u'shar achronim. D'zeu etzem hatakona, d'lo k'mogen Avram, the mashma mino, the ikra takona ya shelo l'chabes ber Shabbos. The Mogen Avram understood this takana that you should not wash on Friday, but you want to be free on Friday. That's the main issue of the takana. Modern poskim such as Rav Neuwirth in Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa discuss whether this institution applies today, where laundry is done in a washing machine. Modern methods of laundering involve significantly less time and effort than doing by hand. And the concern of being too busy on Friday, even if you wash your clothes on Friday, is not as relevant. Says the Shmir Shabbos, Yesh la'ayim, takana says, you should investigate whether this takana is applicable today. Shekula mechabsim b'mechonet kvisa. Everyone uses laundry machines. Vein lachshash yutrudim be'erev Shabbos. You know, it used to be in Poland, the women would have to take the clothing down to the river. They would take stones and hack it, and I mean, it was unbelievable. Lo shaykh kan lomar to be in gadol b'chachma v'minyan levatal tak. Now, what the Shmir Shabbos halacha is not dealing with is the following. We have a principle that takanos that were made by an earlier Bezdin cannot be gotten rid of unless the later Bezdin that wants to get rid of it is greater b'chachma over minyan. Well, we have, for example, things like yayin nesech, where wine is prohibited for us to drink if a non-Jew touches it, because they used to, use it for avodah zarah purposes. Well, a lot of that doesn't exist anymore. However, the takana still is halacha. So you see, Rav Neuwirth is walking a very careful line here. This is a takana of Ezra. How can we just uproot it? That's what he says. He says, "Lo shaykh kan lomar to be inen gadol b'chachma v'minyan." It's not shaykh here to say that for us to uproot this takana of Ezra about the laundry on Thursday, we need to have a Beis Din greater in gadlus and chachma than Ezra, which we know we can't do. He says, "Yesh lomar to b'cheven shenoket tam ledvarav." Ezra gave a reason for his takana. The yesh lachshosh she'imanim el sasa b'tzorcha Shabbos. He gave a reason for the takana. In batla tam gamak zeir batla. So if the tam, that again, I think he's walking a very slippery slope. We have a lot of takanas like this, where we were given a reason, the reason is gone, yet we still do it. So that's what I would ask Rav Neuwirth. I used to walk by Rabbi Neuwirth's house. Rabbi Neuwirth lived in Beit Vagan. There's a nice biography here. When I would visit Rabbi Gottesman, who lived in Beit Vagan, he lived right near Rav Neuwirth, and he would always show me, I think he may have shown me once when he was walking. He was a great Talmud of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, and the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa is a very well accepted work regarding Shmir Shabbos. I'm sure all of us have used it in our lives. And he just recently passed away. Others argue that regardless of whether ordinances remain in force when conditions change, one may still launder clothes on Friday. This position is based upon the Shart Sion, which indicates that the primary goal of the ordinance is to ensure that one has clean clothes for Shabbos. Thus, the ordinance may be understood to emphasize getting the laundry done in an efficient, reliable manner before Shabbos, which you can do today on Erev Shabbos through the washing machines. Rav Ovadia Yosef rules definitively that one may be lenient today in this matter, though he recommends washing laundry earlier to ensure that there's sufficient time on Friday for other Shabbos preparations. So there's no real issur. people do electric laundry machines. We're not wasting a lot of time in laundry. If a housewife wants to do laundry on Friday, they can do it. Because better to do it earlier, so that all of Friday can be spent preparing for Shabbos. Other Shabbos preparations on Erev Shabbos. The Gemara Masechta Shabbos determines, in accordance with the verse in the Torah, that a person should arise early on Friday morning in order to prepare for Shabbos. Amr Chisda, Lo'olam yashkim adam lo tzad Shabbos. Should wake up early to prepare for all the expenses of Shabbos. Shneimar, it says in the parsha of the Man, V'hayaba yom hashishi, v'hechinu es asher yaviu. They would start collecting the man in the morning, so that they would have it for Shabbos. They received a double portion in the morning to give them for Friday and for Shabbos. Now, Rashi says, V'echinu es asher yaviu la'alter, right away. B'shas habo achona. It means at the time that they would collect the man in the morning, that's when they would start preparing. The going or bringing the man was early, to see early in the morning. And the Shulchan Aruch rules like this statement of Rav Chisda. One should arise early. The Bir Halacha, who is the Chafetz Chaim, discusses the time frame for arising early and suggests that it extends through the end of the third halachic hour. That's the latest time to recite Kriyat Shema. That means that as long as you arose within the first 3 hours of the day, that's considered arising early. The Chut Shani, I think the Chut Shani is Rav Karelitz, suggests that it may apply only to the individuals mainly responsible in the household to prepare for Shabbos. Doesn't mean everybody in the household has to wake up early. It's whoever's doing the preparation. Moreover, one may also suggest that if much of the shopping was already done previously, which is common today since people have refrigerators, you can refrigerate and freeze, it's not as necessary to rise early than usual, provided you have sufficient time during the day to complete your Shabbos preparations on time. What about shopping for Shabbos? The poskim discuss whether it's appropriate to go shopping for Shabbos items prior to reciting Shachos in the morning. We learned in volume 9, you're not allowed to engage in other activities prior to reciting Tefillah. Thus, on Erev Shabbos, may a person purchase good for Shabbos or engage in other Shabbos preparations, which might be considered Mlecha Shamayim, labor of heaven, before Tefillah. Similarly, if someone has a set Torah study session on Friday morning, should this be canceled in order to go shopping for Shabbos? Or should he first learn Torah and then go prepare for Shabbos? The Mishnah Berurah distinguishes between cases in which supplies for Shabbos can be found in abundance and cases in which there may be a limited supply of the items one needs. If there's abundance, one should daven or study first, while in the latter, you might have to go shopping first. He says you should go shopping right after davening. If his practice is to learn after davening, or shalom edim rabim, or he learns with a group, al yivatlenu, he shouldn't be mavatal the learning. If the local custom is that goods are sold only in the morning, and and if he stays for the shear, there's nothing going to be able to be bought. He should go shopping first. And if items for Shabbos are usually sold even before Tefillah, and if he goes to daven, it's going to run out. He's not going to be able to buy anything after davening. The Mishnah Berurah pasuk should go shopping first. He says you should read Kriya Shema before. Kivan Shekvar Giyazmana, since the time of Kriya Shema is hid, Vein Zeh Bichlal Mashrabru Osir Lasos Chafetz of Kodem Shispalo. It doesn't. There's a prohibition to do your private stuff before you daven. But these are not his private things. This is for Shabbos. So you're allowed to go shopping. What does the halacha say today about when a person should make purchases for Shabbos? The Shmira Shabbos Kilchasa writes that it's proper to do one Shabbos Friday on Friday, since it's more recognizable that it's being done for Shabbos. But only if you will have sufficient time to complete all the cooking and other Shabbos preparations as well. Says the Shmira Shabbos Kilchasa, Mutav Liknos Tzorchei Shabbos Be'erev Shabbos Miliknos Yom Chamishi. Actually says it's preferable to buy your Shabbos items on Friday than on Thursday. Kivan Shem Yiknei Be'erev Shabbos Nikra Adavar Yosef Shulchavot Shabbos. By buying them on Friday, it's more recognizable that they were purchased for Kavod Shabbos. Not only that, Yoimar b'shas hakniyah she'oisekem l'Kavod Shabbos. You should actually enunciate it with your words. This is l'Kavod Shabbos. When does it apply? You're talking about buying things that doesn't require a lot of preparation before Shabbos. Like buying drinks. But meat and fish, it takes a long time to prepare meat and fish. You have to marinate it, spice it, cook it, etc. He says those things is better to purchase them on Thursday, so that way you can start cooking them early Friday and not get stuck. So according to this, if someone makes a large purchase at a supermarket, including both items such as meat and drinks, this should preferably be done Thursday or earlier. Piskei Tshuva notes that a large shopping at the supermarket often takes a large amount of time, and therefore it should be done before Friday. Tasting the Shabbos foods. The Mishnah Berurah writes in the name of the Arizal that a person should taste the Shabbos foods on Friday to assure that they have been prepared and flavored properly. Mitzvah litom. It's a mitzvah to taste. Mikol tavshil be'erev Shabbos, from everything you cook. Because you want to make sure they've been well spiced. Ma'ayim b'sefer Shulchan Shlomo. Da'ati'ima b'Shabbos mikol min bevada hi mitzvah. And you should taste every one of the dishes. It's a mitzvah. The Rebbe says that to'ameh chaim zachu. In the Musaf, we say, those that taste will live a long life. See Magen Avraham, who cites the practice from the Arizal, as well as Beit Yosef, citing the Shibbolei Haleket. Shibbolei Haleket is a Rishon, though they do not specify the precise reason for it. One can explain it in one of two ways. Either to ensure that the food tastes good, or as a mitzvah of demonstrating honor to Shabbos, even if one does not need to verify the taste. The practical difference between these two reasons might arise in a case where one already knows how the food tastes, or it cannot be fixed or improved simply by adding some salt or spice. In addition, it would seem that according to the first explanation, to ensure that the food tastes good, only one household member would taste the dishes, while the second explanation would encourage every member to taste the dish. Because every member wants to demonstrate Kavod Shabbos. Now, what about personal preparations for Shabbos? So far, we have discussed a number of guidelines regarding the mitzvah of Shabbos preparation. A person might expect that these halachot relate only to verifying that the necessary tasks are completed. That means you don't have to occupy yourself personally with these preparations. You have to make sure that they get done. You're like an executive. However, the Gemara in Masechta Kiddushin intimates that while the halacha normally allows one individual to perform many mitzvahs on behalf of others, we say shlucho shel adam kamoso. If you appoint a shaliach, he's like you. Still, it's a greater mitzvah to perform these tasks oneself. The Gemara cites specific examples of certain Amoraim who prepared the needs of Shabbos themselves, even though they could have left these tasks to household servants. In the Masechta Kiddushin, it says, "Aish mekadesh bo u'ishlucho." A man can give Kiddushin to his intended wife, either himself or via shaliach. Hashto b'shlucho mekadesh bo maboy. So understand, the Gemara says it seems redundant. If a shaliach works, certainly he himself works. Amar Rav Yosef, mitzvah bo yoser b'shlucho. Yeah, but it's a special mitzvah to be makadesh yourself. Ki hadir Rav Safra machrich reisha. He would occupy himself in roasting the head of an animal on Friday, and they would eat it on Shabbos. Rabba malach shibuta. Rabba salted the shibuta fish. They call it a turbo, but the shibuta, the Gemara says, is a special fish that if you eat it, it tastes, it's the only thing that tastes like chazer, shibuta. Now, I once went to a halachic suda that was a prime grill. It was 20 years ago with Yaakov. Huh?
Probably longer than that.
Maybe, no, it used to be held in the Lavana in Manhattan. These halachic sudas were done to keep certain mesoros. For example, a certain bird is kosher. It's through mesora. There's a tradition that bird is kosher. That's why, for example, turkey, there was no mesora. That's why there's a controversy. Some people, Rabbi Schechter, won't eat turkey. But it's been accepted by most poskim that since it's been eaten by Jews for hundreds of years now, that it is considered to have a mesora. So I was at this halachic suda, and there are these two archaeology types, like
Maybe your teams.
what's wrong with that? Raiders of the Lost Ark. What's that guy's name? Indiana Jones. So there's two Jewish Indiana Jones. They're called the two Aris. One is a dentist, Rav Ari Lebovsky. They oftentimes will write articles in Hakira and many other magazines. They're called the two Aris. And they research very unusual things. They traveled to Turkey and they found this shibuta fish and they brought it to we tasted this shibuta fish at this halachic suda. Okay.
And Ernie, did it taste like chazar to you?
I didn't get it. It was reserved. The regular price to attend this shir, to send this suda, was $175. But on top of that, there were special donors who had given a lot more money, and the shibuta fish was only given to the donors. And they had very unusual things. They had yak from China, a yak. It's like a water buffalo, but it's kosher. It's yak. We ate there is a certain fish that is fished by sportsmen. And there was a debate whether it's kosher, and it was poskin that it is kosher. I can't believe that it's escaping me the name of that fish. It's in the Pacific Ocean, and it's like a night marlin, blue marlin. It's one of these sports fishes that are like 900 pounds. You see these, fishermen catching them.
Swordfish.
No, it was not. Swordfish is a different issue. This is not the one I'm talking about. I think it's the blue marlin. And there was a debate, and here was possible that it was kosher, and they did serve that to us.
No, it's a swordfish.
No, the fish that we ate was a different. The swordfish is a different fish where they say is kosher, or
Right.
they used to think it's not. But we didn't have that. We had that other fish that was also in the past thought not to be kosher, which they found eventually that it did have scales, and therefore it was kosher. Rashi explains the notion of a greater mitzvah, that a greater mitzvah indicates greater reward. And that's a function of greater personal investment. Why mitzvah bo yoser mibishluchadechi asa gufo b'mitzvahs makabel schar tfei? If your body itself is involved in performing the mitzvah, you're going to get more reward. Thus, the Gemara indicates that every person should actively participate in preparations for Shabbos, as this is the greater form of performing the mitzvah. However, according to a well-known halachic principle, one is not supposed to stop studying Torah to perform a mitzvah that could be performed by someone else. If so, why did the Amoraim refrain from spending extra time learning Torah in order to prepare for Shabbos, if others could have done so instead? The Sharat Tziyun responds to this question with two different suggestions. Sharat Tziyun is also the Mishnah Berurah. Venira, the Loshach b'zeloimer mitzvah sheyuchal asosei de'acherim em mevatla tamid afilu zman mu'ed. The Mishnah Berurah is responding to this claim that here of preparing Shabbos stuff by yourself, it's not a reason to be. You might think that you should continue studying because this is stuff that can be done to other people. It's much better for him to do it than another person. For example, you should continue learning if there's a mitzvah that is not necessarily should be done by your body. For example, should you break learning in order to do a kamilas chesed for somebody? If somebody else can do it, that you should not stop learning. Kovet Shabbos mutels al gufo. Kovet Shabbos is mutels on his body. Memela mitzvah bo yoser mibishlucho. Oinami dedavkelin Kovet Shabbos arminan came. For issues of Kovet Shabbos, we say it. Masha enki lenient shar mitzvahs and mutam and chalcham no gel lebitul Torah tzarchiyun. He leaves it as a tzarchiyun. It's not such a poshut thing. He says clearly Kovet Shabbos is more chomer. The Shulchan Aruch quoted the action of the Amoraim and writes that every person should do it themselves as well. Yashkim b'boker b'yom shishi lachin tzarchei Shabbos. He should wake up early Friday and start preparing Shabbos. Even if he has servants, he should prepare something for Shabbos to honor it. And he states, he would chop the vegetables very finely. The Rabbi Rav Yosef, they would chop wood. Rav Zeri had the Madlakaish, he would light the fire. Rav Nachman, he would clean the house. Or bring in special utensils for Shabbos. And remove the vachadika kelim out. We should learn from them. I'm not going to reduce my honor by doing these menial tasks. This is actually his covet by being Mechabit Shabbos. The Mishnah Berurah urges helping specifically on short Friday afternoons when you have to, when Shabbos comes in early. Even if you're the Gadol Ador, you should do something for Shabbos. Certainly on short Fridays, when it comes near Shabbos, Shabbos is coming in and you're not finished. He has to work as hard as he can. Mishnah Berurah saw great people. They would sweep the floor. It's an obligation. What if he lives alone, or if he has no family, or he does have family? It makes no difference. However, at times, some men have refrained from engaging in these preparations. As he often does, the Aruch HaShulchan finds a justification for those people who didn't do it. He explains that the Shulchan Aruch writes that one should try. It would seem that preparing for Shabbos oneself constitutes a heater mitzvah and not a chiyuv. The B'shas Sham Choshev Mishayu Oitzim Batzman. It gave great credence to those that did it themselves. It only gave a few examples. Much be the majority didn't do it themselves. It's a hidra, Elohu hidra mitzvah. Etzleinu nishotenu osod. Our wives, they make Shabbos. Umechinot batzman chaver Shabbos v'ishtu kegufo. And then he says, your wife is like you. Rav Yair Bakrak in the Chavos Yair asks how prominent individuals are permitted to help prepare for Shabbos if some of the tasks they perform are degrading to their honor. Isn't there a rule that kavod habrios, personal dignity, overrides a rabbinic prohibition? The Bir Halacha resolves the question by saying that any action done in the course of clearly performing a mitzvah, such as preparing for Shabbos, is considered honoring Hashem and not a degradation to kavod habrios. Kizeu kvodo, ishav hazeh mashayikshe b'shut Chavos Yair. He says preparing for Shabbos is the kavod for the person. This answers the question that the Chavos Yair asked, Echi kilu b'chvodam. How could you be makel with the kavod of a Talmid Chacham? Hagadol kavod habriyas sh'derech lo sasher b'Torah. Kavod habriyas is a human dignity is so great that it can violate a rabbinic, the sheval taisa, the divrei Torah, and even lavim of Rabbanan. Lachein kavod is there kvoidam. So that's why the Mishnah points out this is the kavod of a person. She'oisek b'atzmo b'mitzvah, v'nikish she'oisek kem l'kvod Hashem yisbarach. He's showing clearly that he's doing it for the honor of Hashem. K'mo she'kosov al David HaMelech al Hashem u'nekalosai od mizos. This is when I think when he was dancing in front, when they were bringing the Aron into the Beis HaMikdash. Masha'en ken im a nicker. If the kavod shemaim is not seen, we're talking about a case, does an old person on the street who finds a lost object, does he have to pick it up and bend over and degrade himself? He doesn't have to. That might, we exempt him from doing it because it degrades the honor of a Talmid Chacham. Because not everybody knows that by bending down and doing all that, he's finding a lost object. He says, he would build the fence on his roof. Now, normally Rav Nachman would not do manual labor. Well, why is he building this makkah? Well, everyone knows that building a makkah is a mitzvah. Mashen came baveda, finding a lost object. But when he's bending over to pick it up, and I call yodim, he said that he's picking up a mitzvah. He's potter from doing it. Today, it may be that many individuals engage in housework and preparations for Shabbos. More are doing it than in previous years. The issues of kavod habriyas and housework being beneath one's dignity is thus much less of an issue than it may have been previously. Thus, many individuals indeed fulfill the heater mitzvah of preparing for Shabbos themselves, like the great Amoraim in the Gemara, and it's recommended by the Shulchan Aruch. Okay. Any questions?
No.
Okay, hearing none, we will close the session, and we will gather again next week, Tuesday night.
Ernie, one question. The minhag of tasting food on Erev Shabbos to make sure it's appropriate and fine for Shabbos. Do you think that may have given rise to the modern day minhag of everybody going on Thursday night and tasting cholent and kigel?
I would like to be